If you've ever played a MUD, you know that you just sometimes wish you had a map. True, you could write one down with pen and paper, but automation would just really make things easier. You may have even tried to use Mudlet's generic mapping script and found that it is a confusing and frustrating thing to get into. In spite of having a lot of information about what it does, there's very little information as to how to actually do it. So if you find yourself in this spot, this tutorial is for you. So let's just jump in and get started with how to use Mudlet's generic mapper. Now obviously you're going to need Mudlet in order to use the Mudlet's mapper. Mudlet should come with it. You can come up here and click scripts and you should see there a generic mapper Lewis script automatically loaded. As long as that's there, you're good to go. Now when you begin, you probably won't have a map on the screen, and if you come up here and click the map button and nothing is happening, you just simply type map show. Now your map is going to be up on the top right portion of the screen, and it's probably going to be smaller and it's going to look a little differently. And I don't know about you, but the first thing I was trying to figure out was like, hey, how do I resize my window? So let's figure out how to do that. In order to resize your window, you simply type in map window. Map window followed by X or Y will change the X and Y coordinate. Let's just move it around like this, or perhaps around like, well, that's not very useful. Let's get this back. But yes, obviously, I'm just typing in random coordinates, so they're just ending up in odd spots. But you get the general idea. Y, of course, changes the Y axis. H and W, on the other hand, will change the height and width. So maybe I wanted like a skinnier map, or maybe a map that wasn't so tall. You know, maybe I just want a little tiny map or something. 300 by 300. Now the trick that I want to at least advise when it comes to knowing what the X and Y coordinates you should use are Y should probably be like 0. I have mine set at 2. This is obviously if you want to align it with the top right corner here. And X, oddly, should be whatever your width is plus 18. So we did 300 on our width. So if we did a width, an X value of 318, it'll put it in a nice spot up there. Now, if we had just done 300, you see there it overlaps on the scroll bar, which I find to look just not that great. So 18 apparently is a good number. Anyway, I'm going to reset my map back to what I had it real quick with the values that I have saved. And we'll do Y at 2 and a height of 885. Okay, so now that you've got your map window sized the way you like it, and then, you know, play around with it because it'll take a little while before you figure out what you need or what you want. How do you actually start mapping? Now your window, when you type in map show, will probably not have, you know, it probably won't have, well, it shouldn't have any rooms on it save for 1. And that's completely normal. How do we add rooms, right? How do we get this thing to start auto mapping for us? Well, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to have to teach the code, or the script rather, how to know what a room is, how to know where, you know, when have we moved. Now, luckily, a lot of this is taken care of automatically for you, so there's very little we need to actually do. All we need to do is type find prompt, and then we need to take an action of some kind, an action that triggers the room mechanic. So we either need to move somewhere, or a good one is to type the look command. Pardon me. Okay, so a good one is to type the look command, and actually I'm going to type in find prompt, and I'm going to sit here and not do anything. Because what's going to happen is it's going to time out. It's going to say prompt not auto detected. It's because we didn't move, we didn't look. So if we type in find prompt and then type in look, you can see there it says mapper prompt found. So we know then that it has successfully found the prompt and it knows what to look for. Essentially what that's doing is it's looking at this you know, the HP bar, and it's just saying, okay, I'm going to ignore this, right? I'm going to ignore that, you know, this even exists, and then I know that when you enter in a command, this first thing here, this first line of text, that is the room. And when it automatically creates the room, that text is going to be used for the room ID name. It'll also automatically scan all the text here for keywords like north, south, west, up, down, that kind of stuff, and it will automatically add those exits into your room. Now, there are situations where your prompt might change, or, you know, odd things might happen that you need to fix. So let's actually see if we can go find a room that I haven't been in. Let's try this south room. I'm sure that's a new one. No, it isn't. You can see there actually the mapper's getting a little confused because I'm going places that haven't been mapped yet. Oh, I think I see what happened here. Actually, I have been here. That map is just wrong, and that's fine. I'll have to fix that later. Here we go, finally. A room that I haven't been in. Okay, so you see here, when I moved into a new room that I hadn't been in, this is unique to Avendar, and actually, I should probably have said that earlier. We're using a game called Avendar as the example. Quick shout out to avendar.net. That's AVENDAR.net. If you're interested in playing, you can go to that website and get all the info to get started. But yeah, in Avendar, when you move to a new location, you get this prompt here that says you gain 1 exploration point and 1 experience point. Unfortunately, if we had the mapping program running at this time, it would create a room and it would call it you gain 1 exploration point and 1 experience point. Obviously, we don't want that. So we're going to have to find a way to ignore that part of the prompt. Luckily, there's a feature to do that. You literally just type in map ignore and then whatever text you want. I'm going to come up here and copy this so I don't have to spend all day typing it out. Oh boy, if I can actually highlight it correctly. Okay, so I would just take that. I would type in map ignore. You gain 1 exploration point and 1 experience point. Oh, and in my case, it actually removed it because I already had to add it in. So I'm just going to add it in back again, and that's going to add it. And so anytime the script sees this text, it's going to ignore it, and that will help you. Of course, every MUD is going to be unique and different. You're going to run into different challenges depending on what your MUD is like. Your MUD might not even have this problem, but should you encounter this, this is how you add ignore text to the script. Okay, so now that we've figured all that out, now that we've found the prompt, we have the map window on the screen, how do we actually start mapping? Well, this is triggered by typing in start mapping. Now, the first time you map in an area, you need to say start mapping, and then you need to name the location. Now, I should point out you need to be very careful about this because, and this sounds a little funny, and I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. I cannot find a way to delete an area from the mapping script once you've created it. So if you make a typo, if you create an area that you don't want or that you don't need, I haven't figured out how to remove it yet. I don't know if there is a way to remove it. So just be a little careful when you type in start mapping. Really make sure that you've typed it the way that you want, because it's kind of permanent, it seems, once you've typed it in. But anyway, so you type in start mapping, and then for you guys, you'll want to name the area. So, you know, I don't know, it's like the Forest of Death or something, and that's going to create a new area. Now, if you're mapping in a location like me, like I'm in the Forest of Nendor here, and because I've already been here, because I already have an area called the Forest of Nendor, all I have to do, well, and because the game recognizes that I'm in it, I just have to type start mapping, and that's going to activate the mapper. This is when you need to be careful, because the mapping program is good. It really is good. It's pretty intuitive. It picks up on a lot of things that I don't know, it impresses me, but you can't be brainless when you use it. You can't just expect it to map everything perfectly and never need to interact with it. So in reality, when you start mapping, you really need to make sure that it's mapping things correctly. And the moment that you notice that there's a problem, or that it's, you know, mapped a path in poorly, or to the wrong spot, or to a room that doesn't exist, you can type in stop mapping, and that's going to, well, stop the mapping and allow you to fix the mistake. Obviously, it's always easier to fix a mistake early as soon as you see it, instead of, you know, mapping 10 rooms and then realizing that one room is off and now you have to redo everything. So let's just do a sample room. And actually, I think this is a mistake, because I think what happened is room 247 here. Oh, yeah, let me go over how to interact with this map. We'll do that first. So you can obviously scroll up and down to zoom in and out. Up here is your information on your room ID, the position of the room on the canvas of the map, the name, the area that it can be found in. Now, I don't know why, but you cannot make this text bigger. It is just super small, and you just have to deal with it. So get used to squinting, but you don't have to use this text very often. A lot of this is pretty intuitive. In fact, if you come down here and, oh, where did my my little bar disappeared there? I guess that can happen. If you come down here and there's this little checkbox that says room ID, because I forgot to mention, your boxes will be blank the first time you start mapping. You can just click room ID, and that's going to show the room number, which I find to be pretty handy. But yeah, okay, scroll in, scroll out. If you want to move a couple pixels, you can use these arrow keys down here on the bottom left of the map. Now, this can be a little frustrating to move great distances, or maybe you just want to span around, you know, at will. So if you try and click and drag, you'll get this box, or the selection box. So in order to avoid that, hold down the Alt key and then just click and move the mouse around, and that will let you just kind of zoom around the map whatever direction you're moving the mouse. These, I believe, these two buttons next to the arrow keys, I believe, go up and down, although I haven't had to do a lot of that in Avendar yet, so I haven't had a lot of experience with it. This 2D 3D changes your map from a two-dimensional view to a three-dimensional view. I'm not sure why you would want to do this. Maybe your game has a lot of ups and downs and you really want to see that, but hey, it's an option for you. Like I said, this is going to be a basic tutorial, so we won't get into the complicated stuff. Here you can, in the area, you have a drop-down box that is populated with all of the areas you created. For instance, here I can bring up other maps that I've also added to the mapper and look at them, edit them, do whatever I need to, that kind of stuff. Okay, let's get back to the forest. Okay, so now that we know how to do all of that, let's figure out, where was I going with this? I know, let me just get back on track here. We were mapping areas, we typed start mapping, we began, oh right, let me just stop mapping actually so I don't screw anything up. I know I mentioned here that this was probably a mistake, and I'm pretty sure it is. I think 247 and 235 are actually the same room, but due to the way the mapping program worked, it thought they were different rooms while it was auto mapping. So this is actually a really great example to use as how to fix problems that happen when mapping. Let me really quickly make sure that's actually the case. So let me, yep, okay. You can see there the weird jump on the map confirms that. All right, so if you find yourself in this situation, well, hold on, I haven't even given an example of what it looks like when you map. So you type in start mapping. How many times have I said that and not done anything? All right, so you type in start mapping, and then you just move around on the map. And I apparently can't go that way. You see there, it's adding in the rooms. I'm going to stop mapping now. It's adding in the rooms automatically. It's giving them the name of the prompt, or rather ignoring your HP prompt and the name prompt. It assigns them a unique ID, and it scans the exits to know where you can probably move within each room, and it adds those exits. And if it's a break like that, or if it's an exit that doesn't go anywhere, it means you just haven't gone there yet. So that is super cool. I love that it does this. But what if you find yourself in a situation like I just did, where we created the map auto mapping, but 247 and 235 you find out are actually the same room? How do we fix this? So if you just scroll, or rather click and drag and select all of those rooms, you can right click either well, you can right click a single room, or you can right click a group of rooms and access this menu, which gives us a bunch of different options. Move is the one at the top here, and that will let us move rooms around any way we please. So maybe I'm like, okay, well, no, it's not perfect, but in order to make the map look better, I want to move that over there, and I want to take 247 and I want to move it down into 235 because they're the same room, right? Well, that sort of fixes the problem, but there's still going to be an issue while you're playing the game, because the game still thinks 235 and 247 are the same, are different rooms. And what's annoying is that it may look, because you see how we click that and we click move, it may look like it's all one room, but actually when we click there, it's selecting both the rooms and moving them at the same time. A good way to illustrate this is by using the shift command. Anytime you're in a room and you type in shift, you can also follow that up with up, down, left, right, north, south, or no, not left, right, what am I saying? Up, down, north, south, east, west, that kind of stuff. So let's shift this room north. Oh, we're not mapping, you have to be mapping. Start mapping, shift north. Stop mapping, and you can see there the room is actually still there. So we could delete this room and manually connect those, and we'll do that as an example in just a minute. But what if I just want to move, what if you're moving a lot of rooms and you layer a bunch of rooms on top of each other and you just want to combine them all? You want to tell the code, hey, these are the same. So what you do is you just right click. There should be a merge option. Do you have to do it? Do you have to do it through the text editor? Oh, you have to do it through the text editor, or text interface. Okay. I could have sworn you... I'm sorry. Apparently I'm wrong. Well, anyway, there's a merge room function. If you just type in merge rooms... Oh, of course, I'm not mapping. I have to start mapping again. You just type in merge rooms. Now, both of those rooms have been put together. In fact, let's type shift north. You see there, they're all just one room. Okay, so pretty easy to understand, just not easy to learn the first time you need to do it, right? Hopefully you're tracking with everything that's going on. So we've gone over starting mapping, stopping mapping, shifting. We can merge rooms. Let's go over doors. Let's take a look. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, it's just raining. That's fine. Let's take a look at this little symbol here. You may have noticed this. This is a door, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but if you right click any room and click on the exit, you get this screen here. We should probably go over this actually now. So this screen looks a little complicated at first, but it's actually super simple. All you have is north, south, east, west, the diagonals, up, down, in, out. These are all the same thing, just repeated about, what, like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times? Otherwise, they're the exact same interface. Now, let's take 242 as an example. We know there's no route to the west of 242, but let's pretend there was. Let's access 242. So this little box, this little empty square that has no text around it at all, luckily if you do hold the mouse over it, it'll tell you what it does. If you check that box in any direction and save it, you see there it added a little unknown direction. It says, hey, you can go to the west here, but we haven't gone to the west. And we're going to undo that because we have gone to the, or rather there is no direction to the west. But yeah, essentially you can do that with any of the directions just by checking that little box. Secondly, if you want to manually connect one room to another, see here we have room 242 and 240 to the right, as well as 242 and 238 to the south. I'm sure you've already noticed, but here in this box we see 240 and 238. And that's what's manually connecting those rooms together, or I should say automatically connecting those rooms. But if we were to change those numbers, say we were to change 240 to 243, which is the room we're in now, 243 right there, then this would connect from the west to 243. Now let's delete room 243 really quickly to show kind of an example. This is gonna screw up my map, but oh well. It's for science! Oh, well, this is actually a good time. How many times am I saying actually? I'm so sorry. This is a good time to go over how to help the automapper. You have to help the automapper a lot of times, kind of to get it started. Once it's started, it goes on pretty well, but there are certain problems, little quirks that you might run into that give it trouble, and it's hard getting it back on track. And before I forget, one of those quirks is if you try and move in a direction and you can't, like an NPC stops you or the door is locked or something, you should stop the automapper and restart it again, because it gets very confused when you've moved to when you try to move to an area but you can't move to an area. It gets very, very confused. Luckily, it doesn't map anything incorrectly as long as you immediately stop the mapping. I know that's totally random. I'm honestly just afraid I'm going to forget to mention it, but that is a quirk of automapper. Another quirk of automapping is because automapper looks at room 240 and it thinks, hey, this room should have 3 exits. If we try and move in there now, it'll get super confused because there aren't 3 exits in this room. So what we're going to want to come in here and do is manually add in the exit to the north, and we're going to go to 244 and automatically add in the exit to the west, because we already know those are there. And if those aren't there, the auto mapping portion will get very confused. Now, there's actually a door here from 240 that I'm going to close. I'm going to close north. So we close the door. And I believe, let's start mapping here. I believe if we open north and then go through it. Okay, now see, there was a problem where it thinks that 243 is a different room than 244. We'll have to fix that. We'll have to add 235 to 244. Okay, and that sometimes happens. That just means that you can go one direction, because it thinks, oh, you can go from 235 to 244, but you can't go to 244 to 235. We obviously know that's not true, so we're just going to come here to 244, and we will tell it, hey, it's okay. You can go both ways by typing 235, and that'll connect the line. Anyway, you see there, it automatically added in the door, and I think that's super cool. The way that works is every direction has these 4 radio buttons. The first radio button is for no door. The first radio button is for no door. The second radio button is for a locked door. I think if you hover over it, it'll say, oh, green is an open door. Second radio button is orange, which is a closed door, which is what, I know that looks yellow, but they apparently use that for orange, which means a closed door. And then red, like, let's change it to red. You can just see there. Oh, I thought that was, I don't know. I don't know why that's not working. Is it, maybe it's linked to 235 and I'm editing 240? Oh yeah, that's all it is. The door apparently was linked to 235. Anyway, but yeah, you can edit the color of the door, you know, to indicate, oh, hey, there's a door that, you know, I can't open, or there's a door that is locked or something. Otherwise, it will automatically add those doors in there for you. Apparently, I'm thirsty. I should probably drink before I die. Okay. But yeah, so that covers doors. Movement lag. Okay. So you've seen me move around the map here. Now, if you try to move too quickly, like I'm going to move super fast here, and it doesn't know where I am now. The mapping system works very well, but it does get rather confused if you try and move too quickly. I mean, it's just limited, right? It can only scan the text so fast. So it doesn't know where we are. So you do need to move kind of at a little bit slower of a pace to make sure that the mapper can keep up. But if you find yourself in a situation where, like, we don't know where we are now, if you type in look, it'll automatically try to realign you with one of the locations on the map. Now, if you're not in a location that you've mapped, or sometimes if you're just really in a weird spot that maybe has an identical name to like 7 other places on the map, it still might get confused. But in general, if you use the look command, you'll realign yourself based on where you are. Double click movement, we already went over that. How to move existing rooms, we did that. Oh, the last part is mismatched rooms. Now, we already saw that a little bit, but there's a place that, well, we don't need to move there. I don't think anything, actually, well, I was gonna say, I don't think anything will kill us in the forest, but I'm going to not take the chance. I'm gonna go back into the monastery and hide like a coward. All right, let's bring up the Savannah map here. Okay, so you can see this map is pretty wonky. And I'll try and explain this quickly. So you see here, okay, imagine we're playing the game and we're at 164 and we go south twice, right? We end up at 175. Now, if we're over here at 155, oh gosh, no. No. Stop. I don't know how to cancel this. Stop. Move. Okay, what if we double click? Okay. Apparently you can cancel that by double clicking something closer to you. Apologies, I accidentally clicked one of these rooms and poor Talaris was trying to jet out and go that direction. Anyway, alright. So you're at 155, you go south 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. You end up at 167. Totally different place in the mind of the computer as far as what aligns to a grid, right? In fact, if you go south from 164 twice, the computer expects you to be here at 173, not down here at 167. So while you're mapping, you will need to keep an eye out for that. You'll have to make sure that your places on the map, as MUDs don't always align perfectly, they will not be recognized perfectly by the mapper. You'll have to overwrite those manually. I really suggest kind of getting a feel for an area first and mapping one room, and then stopping and figuring out where you are, and then mapping a couple more rooms and stopping and figuring out where you are, just to make sure, kind of like where we were up here in the monastery, where, you know, I had this room that was actually this 247 room, but it looked like a different room. As always, you'll just need to use your head as you map. Anyway, apparently Talaris is beginning to get hungry, and if I don't find him some food, he will starve to death. So I'm going to end it there. Hopefully, this was at least helpful enough to get you started with the mapping. There are other features. I feel like those are better documented online. But yeah, again, I hope this gets you started from a basic perspective, and let me know if you have any questions about anything we covered, and happy mudding. Good luck.